Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to something really different. A bit of a heart-to-heart, I guess. Maybe a bit more of a raw video. Not strictly emotional, but I suppose more emotional than what I usually do. I keep my cards close to my chest. I don't really go beyond the professionalism as much as I can help it, but I don't think it's any real secret, anyone that's followed this channel for any length of time, that I do this flip-flopping we joke about between my traditional format, which most of you probably love, which is probably what you came to the channel for, the shorter form overviews, right? Here's a game, here's some B-roll and some basic thoughts, 10 minutes and off you go, putting things on your radar because you don't have the time to do that because you have a real life. It's a cool product, right? There's a reason the channel's been built on the back of that. And at somewhere along the way, I felt that wasn't enough, that I needed more. And I don't know if it's necessarily strictly ego, because I don't fancy myself as some sort of auteur of the review space. Granted, I'm trying a different method for review scoring, but I think that's more that if I'm going to review, I'm going to do it my way anyway. I mean, look, read between the lines and see what you reckon. Maybe it's all ego, perhaps. But the truth is, I've come up with let's say a product, this short form video that shows off a cool new game every day. And I've been doing something similar on the second channel, by the way, where I, look at games on sale, and you could check that out because we're going to fire that back up again. But the problem is you can't do both. You can't really review one game and put 50 hours a week into it and at the same time do all these little short form videos. It just doesn't really work out together. I mean, time constraints is one big part, but honestly, it starts to sort of poison the well a little bit. Like if you're trying to really mainline one game and focus in on it, and then I go and play some $2 indie game that's better than it for a couple of hours, it sort of turns your world upside down a little bit. But yeah, instead of just accepting that I've kind of won, right? I've come up with my YouTube product and I like it and it makes me happy and it makes people happy and the channel benefits, and I get to look at all these cool little indie games, and some of them are good and some of them are shit. And I can pass that info on to you like mission complete, right? I'm not trying to build rockets to Mars or run for presidency or prime minister. Like for my little slice of trying to achieve something that moves the needle in the world, I think I've done well with the short little overviews. My little tiny splotch, my mark. But it's only really now that I see that retroactively, after having to try and push the needle higher and further with the longer form, more serious review structure. So in many ways, this will probably be my last review. We'll do a soft review in this video because it's not even necessarily a straw that broke the camels. It's not like I'm having a tantrum and throwing things around, but at the same time, my struggle with the game Death Stranding 2 has really helped me look at this whole situation, because I'm a huge fan of Death Stranding 1. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I've put 6 hours into Death Stranding 2, and I'm having to force myself to play it. It's not necessarily bad, though. I can see a bit of disappointment creeping in on my part. We'll come back to that, right? But I recognize that my framing may be a bit sloppy and all over the place, but such is the nature of this sort of honest video. What really opened my eyes to a lot of this is what I would call the moments in between. So, okay, I'm gearing up to play Death Stranding 2, forcing myself, as it were. Maybe I put an hour in and turn it off, right? And I get frustrated and agitated and procrastinate. And in those moments in between, what I reach for, those are the games that not only should I be playing, but I should be sharing with you, with my platform. In that moment of exacerbation, and you guys can surely relate beyond gaming, right? You've got a job that's driving you nuts, or family that's making you want to pull your hair out, what hair you've got left. What do you turn to? What's your escapism, Hopefully not the bottle or anything like that. Let's keep it within the realm of games, right? But interestingly, I'll just use this as a moment to list off where I've gone. Recently, this game called Peak came out. I didn't get given any keys or anything like that. It's going for like $7. And I got a bunch of one of my gaming mates interested and brought them in. And it's like a very cutesy color palette aesthetic where the four of you are trying to climb up a mountain, and it kind of daily reshuffles, and it turns from very happy-go-lucky, maybe even streamer bait into what is quite a sweaty, hardcore experience. Really trying to navigate this mountain. You're kind of against the clock. The mist is rising. You get pitons and rope ladders and launches, and it's really excellent. And I've already put a fair few hours into that in between reviews. And look, I'll probably put some B-roll in here, and honestly, give me a comment. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video, give it its actual time of day. But again, this is unusual, the one that we're doing at the moment. But that game's excellent. I'm having such a blast playing that when I'm putting off playing other things. In the midst of all this, I thought, well, maybe I just need to do some content for the second channel, right? So I checked out what was on sale at the moment. All the Battlefield games are on super deep sale, $2 a piece. I picked up Battlefield 3 for $2. I played it for literally 1 hour of B-roll to make a sale video on the second channel. I'm not sure if I said that earlier in this video, but I have that overview format, but I do it on the second channel, which funnily enough has had a lot of success, even though I haven't really been going hard on it. You should go and check that out. And we're probably going to scale that back up as well, bring that up to pace. But my God, the Battlefield 3 single-player campaign, chasing dudes in the intro on a subway, trying to catch a bomb and fighting through the town and the destructible environment, snipers shooting at you and trying to defuse bombs, and this whole sort of on rails but actually quite involved aeroplane segment where you're in dogfights flying off aircraft carriers. My God, that's so excellent. It's so fun. It was so refreshing. You should check it out. What else have I reached for? Here's a little couple dollar game that I got thrown, but again, under this review format, there's no room for me to show you, but I'm showing you now. Cast and Chill. It's really quite relaxing, but still involved fisherman simulator where you got your little dog and you go out and fish on the lake and you throw your line out. It has a very clever split camera that goes below the water's surface. You do different baits and lures. You catch your fish, bring them back, sell them. You upgrade the strength of your line or the depth or the bobber that you put on the end of it. You get new licenses to go fishing elsewhere. That thing's great as well. But the list is almost endless, right? Oxygen not included. I saw a friend playing that and I booted that up after years and years. I used to be obsessed with it. I've got like 500 hours, and playing a bit of that was really quite fun, and talking to him through Steam and trying to help him navigate heat death of his base because he was a bit newer. Grey Zone Warfare, there's something that might shock you. I played a lot of Grey Zone Warfare, almost daily. I've got a couple of friends that we play it with, and contrary to the popular narrative that you'll hear around that game, we don't PvP a lot. We do, and we enjoy it, but what we enjoy most about that game is that it's got that Tarkov-like Tetris management. For some reason, I like it much better here than I do in Tarkov. Making your own custom guns out of bits and pieces, and then going into, a PvE situation where we're moving with kind of small unit tactics. Reminds us of Ready or Not a bit because we've played all that together, and, kind of hyper lethal stuff going through the streets of Banpar and Far Lang, and it can hot up all of a sudden and one of you's down in a coma and the other one's trying to do first aid. It has a fantastic first aid system. I've never seen anything like it, where you're trying to resuscitate one dude and the other one's holding everyone down. And I look at that and it makes me want to make my own video game, like taking a lot of those mechanics. Hardcore, hyper-lethal PvE, full loot, hardcore inventory management, intense health system, but I don't know, maybe in a spaceship roguelike run-based thing. And the list goes on, right? Like Architect Life, I've got that sitting there. I chipped away at that. I mean, it seems fairly shallow, but like I kind of was intrigued. I'd at least like to share that with you, building this little house and laying out the plans and then having a kind of narrative, choose your own adventure component when the constructors come in to actually build it. Maybe the site gets rained out. How are you going to deal with that? You're going to hire more dudes, pay overtime, rah, rah, rah. It's clever. It's different. It bears discussion. But then there's even some other older games that slipped through the cracks that I just had a look at again. In my procrastination, in my attempts to avoid reviewing what I'm supposed to be reviewing. Songs of Silence. That's like a year old. I slept on it by accident, again, because I was reviewing. I didn't have time in my schedule to share that with you, but my God, that thing's excellent. It's sort of like a auto battler type game. You build your army on one side and send them against the others, but the art is so inspired. It's kind of cel shaded, but that doesn't even do it justice. Then you're moving around a world map with really beautiful music and interesting story, and Kong Survivor Instinct. What a dumb game. Arguably, potentially bad, but I kind of like it. It reminds me of Xbox Live Arcade type games of yesteryear, of, side-scrolling and soft platforming. And yeah, it's a bit clunky and janky, but it's definitely original. Got bloody King Kong in the background trying to punch you, and almost reminds me of a Jurassic Park game I played on the bloody Mega Drive way back in the day. And look, I could just go on and on and on. But the point that I'm trying to illustrate is that's me gaming earnestly when I'm not reviewing. That's me having fun. And then I find myself, playing something like Death Stranding 2, and I'll just briefly discuss it, right? There's plenty of discourse around it. I think if you didn't like Death Stranding 1, this is not going to change your mind. I loved Death Stranding 1 for being so incredibly unusual, at least in the beginning, right? I was sold on that shot where the dude shoots himself in the head but then immediately gets flipped upside down. Like, the mystique and the intrigue leading up to Death Stranding really did sell it for me. But it's one of those things that once you do know the prestige, you peek behind the curtain and they start filling in the rest of the blanks at the back end of the first game. I felt, it's not that it fell apart, but it fell away. And 2 is just very much more Death Stranding, which in many ways disappoints me. I wanted Death Stranding 1 again. Kojima is held in such high regard as this auteur of gaming, and this seems like a very safe sequel. I honestly see the gaming, not industry, but the people of gaming that love Kojima, I can see them turning on him in the not so distant future. I really do think that he's simply a language barrier away from being the next Neil Druckmann. I have him on Twitter and I had to mute him because the dude just posts and reshares everything non-stop, and it kind of explains why he's so obsessed with the Death Stranding like system. It's kind of Twitter, the video game, in some ways. But yeah, without going into it too much, they kind of pull a Last of Us 2 in the opening hours of the game, which, if you know what I mean, you can probably read between the lines, but it lands a little bit better. But the real problem is that it's used as a reset. Like, the game opens, God, I really want to talk around this, but things are a bit different. And I found myself going, how is the game going to change to accommodate for the way that Sam's going to navigate the environment now? And the answer is, well, we're just going to have a narrative contrivance that resets you back to the exact same state in the first game. And I'm like, that's such a shame. But yeah, the worship of Kojima, I've always been a bit skeptical of. I never really played a lot of the Metal Gear games. I played V, which I did quite like. But watching him sort of be cult worshipped by, honestly, a part of the gaming industry that I really dislike. It's not that I don't like Jeff Keighley, but I really dislike in the Game Awards shows this attempt to turn it into the Academy Awards, because fuck the Academy Awards. I hate all that stuff. I think cinematic gaming is, in many ways, quite a misstep to be the centerpiece of what gaming should be. And Kojima kind of using his cachet as the guy in the cinematic gaming space to go around and just collect all his favorite directors and put them in his video game. It's all just a bit strange. And I really do think if he was fluent in English and kind of sharing with us what he really thinks, I actually think a lot of his cachet would turn against him. And from that, I find, and we'll never really know, but when he separated with Konami and even Jeff Keighley had a big browbeat, how dare you, on stage about Konami and the way they treated Kojima and all that. And I really do wonder if all that was really going on is that Konami was just a Japanese company doing weird Japanese culture shit. Like, we've all heard about the way that the work-life balance works in Japan, and I can't help but wonder if Kojima was just kind of the spoilt, westernized dude that didn't fit in a Japanese industrial structure, and Konami bared the brunt of trying to have to say no to this guy. And anyway, a lot of this stands outside of the game, but So far, it's okay. They've added way more menus and fiddly stuff, and it feels fiddly. It feels fiddlier and more of an embuggerance, but at the same time, more of the same without adding a lot. They've made combat a little bit more almost clunky. You can be grabbed and voided out, which I don't believe you could do in the first game, if I recall. And it's cool that you can repatriate and come back, and you can see the giant crater in the ground left behind on the world map where you got voided out. That's fascinating. But in order to make that happen, they kind of made combat feel more unpleasant. And there are times where the enemy couldn't grab me, and there are other times where they grabbed me arbitrarily. And it sort of felt there's not enough nuance in the gameplay loop between that to justify it. And it feels more like they made the combat more dicey and almost unpleasant in an attempt to just force a void out situation to show you because it looks cool. If you made it this far, I thought I'd just share some thoughts on Death Stranding 2. It's more Death Stranding 1. It's more Kojima off the leash, not being told no. And I do wonder if other people feel the same way as me, that maybe they're just getting a little bit sick of it. I can overlook a lot of, personal stuff in the sake of a good product, but like this is coming from the same guy that in his early career was trying to come up with a game that would delete from your hard drive if you died, like super hardcore one life stuff. And then in this, if you lose a boss battle, there's an option at the bottom saying just pretend you beat it. Presumably it lets you skip the boss battle entirely once you died. And I'm like, well, what happened to your vision along the way, brother? Because that sounds like a pretty polar opposite change to me. Anyway, where does this leave us? I'm going back to my old format because that's what I'm happier doing. Just looking at cool little gems and sharing them with you, and, occasionally sharing crap ones with you because that's the one I picked off the shelf and it was disappointing. But generally speaking, I like being a positive influence, not shilling, not faking, but just showing you interesting games on the daily and keeping it as surface level as that. If you have made it this far, I appreciate it, because at the end of the day, who gives a fuck? I'm just some YouTuber with a microphone that shows you cool little games. But maybe you found this interesting if you've been with the channel for a while, and the internal struggle has been pretty extreme for me to find that balance. And I truly think, given the careers that I've had and the life in the past, that I've just had difficulty reconciling the idea that I think I really have found my niche in YouTube, in gaming, that makes me happy, that makes the audience happy, and that's kind of enough. I've always been the journey matters, not the destination, but we're not stagnating or anything like that. I just think I found a good product and I should stick with it and stay in my lane. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, there's no clean way to end this, so we'll wrap it up there, team, and say that we might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.